Welcome to Colliding Worlds. I'm your host, Angela Valenti-Romeo. Come with us as we take you on another journey. Hi, this is Angela Valenti-Romeo. This is Colliding Worlds, and we're really going to do some colliding today. We're at Mario Pico's. We're in his home, his studio. It's an amazing place. We're going to hear about his sculpture, we're going to hear about his art, and maybe hear some funny jokes, or not so funny jokes. This is a wonderful space. How and why did you decide to bring your studio inside your living quarters?
Well, first of all, I like to live and work in the same place. Art is where home is, and home is where you produce the art.
You know, you're known being a Harley artist. And you have a love of motorcycles that goes back.
Yeah.
You're a rider.
Uh-huh.
You're an advocate of bikes.
Yes.
What made you decide to deconstruct and rebuild them into art pieces?
Well, the feeling of a motorcycle, especially Harleys, you know, is like total freedom. And it's very related to art, because art is supposed to be free. It's the freedom of the expression, and it's a way that is very hard to explain. And riding a Harley, of course, is the sound. It sounds like music, and I don't know. Every time I turn it on, it sounds like pop, 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 you know. And I just on the road, you know, and you never know where you're going until you get there.
When you look at these pieces that are assembled from Harley parts and now airplane parts, they all have a great sense of movement.
Mm-hmm. For example, this piece wasn't this piece. And you see this guitar right here? That belongs to a bad crash of a Harley. And those were the fiberglass saddlebags. And I saw the form of a guitar. And that's how the whole piece started.
Even in your paintings are more abstract, but there's always a flow, and there's always such vibrancy and color. Are you attracted to color, or are you attracted more to the shape when you're painting?
Both, you know. And actually, my mentor when I was young, when I came to New York, I was 20 years old, I met Jack Lipschitz, and he became like my mentor. And of course, he was an incredible artist, probably the best sculptor of the 20th century from the School of Paris. And he was a big critic, but that's what I need. I need the criticism so you can find your way. Because he told me a story one time. This rich woman came to my studio, and she says, I want my son to become an artist. And the answer was, don't let him. Exactly how it happened to me, you know, because I don't look good as a doctor or as a lawyer.
And you started at a very young age with your art. You were 8 years old.
Yeah.
And what a journey that was.
Well, actually, you know, in Buenos Aires, that's where I was born. I used to go to this galleria, what's called Galleria Picasso. And that's when I won my first award. We went to a play to see Tchaikovsky, Sleeping Beauty. Oh. And then it was like 800 kids, right? And after the show, we had to draw or paint what we saw at the show. And I did, you know, what I thought that was in the show from Tchaikovsky. So I was in the show with, after that, the show, all the pieces from all the kids in the gallery, Galleria Picasso. And I remember like now, I had 3 people. They came to me and they said, excuse me, Ken, it was 2 guys and a woman. And they looked like CIA agents with raincoats in Argentina, you know, and they looked like real spies. And they said, which piece you think is the best? I said, follow me. So I took it to where my piece was. I said, that's the best piece. And I was 8 years old. And then they quote me in the newspaper, you know.
And you were up and running.
Yeah. Well, I always had a sense of humor that not too many people find, you know, funny, you know. I mean, actually, my lawyer was representing me in one of my jokes, and instead of arresting me, they sent him to jail.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
You sit there and you work with assemblage of parts.
Mm-hmm.
You lay them all out in front of you, and you go through and you pick and choose. Do you gravitate towards a piece and then start to work a sculpture around, like a tailpipe, or do you have it all in your head what you want to do?
I tell you how I do it. I'm very expressionistic about when I do my sculptures, because you have the freedom that you don't have in a painting. In a painting, you just have one surface, okay? It's a flat canvas. But in a sculpture, you see the other three sides of a painting that you can see on the painting. So what I do is, you saw all my Harley Depot in the back, and I just look at the pieces from there. I grab a piece and I go like this, boom. Whatever lands, and then I keep throwing more pieces. I see, in a way, in a very surreal way, the composition already. And then I start working.
And you don't weld?
No, everything's nuts and bolts. I don't like to weld because it's impersonal. When I was a kid, I used to play with mechanos. A mechanos was like some kind of toy that you build in metal, and you use nuts and bolts.
Kind of like an erector set.
Erector, exactly. But in Argentina, we used to call it mecano.
Now, in your case, your mom hid your brushes.
Yeah. Well, she didn't like my first mural that I draw on her wall in the bedroom, and I had to clean it all up. And then somehow my brushes disappear, my paints disappear, and my white smock disappear. But I didn't disappear.
You kept going at it.
I'm back.
You get up in the morning, do you start to work? Do you get up in the morning, do you think about your day? Are there days you don't work, do work? And
No, I tell you what I do. You saw my collection of cactuses. Every morning before I even start working, I get up very early. I get up around 5 in the morning. I water all my plants by hand. It's a more personal contact, and then you see how they grow in front of you, and it's just a great feeling. And after I do all the 400 cactuses that I have, or who knows, then I start working. It's like, I don't know.
after it takes your piece, what do you think is going to happen? Do you ever wonder what they're doing now, where they're living, if they're nicely taken care of?
It happens all the times, and if I don't like the person, I don't sell it. It's like, I don't know, it's a very personal, you see, when I do my work, I don't do it for anybody else, I do it for me. And so it has to be at the level, the right level for me to accept that piece. Otherwise, I work on that piece forever until I'm satisfied. And it's funny because Lipschitz told me, the day you're satisfied about your work, you're done, you finish.
You've gone to painting, you've done wood, you've done the Harley parts, now you're into the aircraft. What's it like going from motorcycles to airplanes?
Well, I tell you one thing. I wish, and especially my neighbors, when they saw me carrying all these, propellers and wings, and they knew that I was crazy from the beginning, but this is a little extreme. So I keep saying to them, well, listen, I'm going to mix Harley parts with airplane parts. I'm going to try to start it, and if you hear a big crash, means that my plane didn't get anywhere, didn't fly. So now it's a good challenge, and both parts represents freedom. One is freedom on the road, and the other one is feeling free like a bird flying in your own universe.
I do hope that you have the opportunity to see his work live and in person. You have to walk around these sculptures, you have to see the movement. Paintings may be flat, but these spring full of life, you can feel it, and you can feel the life. This has been Colliding Worlds, and I really hope that we've enlightened you into something different and new and exciting, and I do hope you take advantage and come and see his work. Thank you so much. What happens with the first show, the first gallery show, not East Hampton, which was part of a jury show, but your own first time where the gallery is just featuring all of your work, what kind of
that was
thought process?
Yeah, that was in 1987, and that was a show in East Hampton at Ashwag Hall, sponsored by my gallery. And an amazing thing happened. That show was up for, I don't know, maybe there were 500 people in the whole world who saw that show. And that was in May of 1987. And in October of that year, I was in Paris, and I took a trip to Giverny. I'd never gone to see Monet's gardens and studio, and went with a group on a bus. And at the end of that little tour, I was sitting in the large studio where he had done the water lilies, and thinking of Monet. And a stranger approached me and said, "Are you Joe Novak?" And I was somewhat shocked. Yeah, I said yes. And he said, "Well, I just wanted you to know that I saw your show at Ashwag Hall in May, and how wonderful the show was." And I took that as a sign that connected me in a way to Monet. And I'm not comparing myself to Monet, but in another way, as a creative person, I am. And it was, I even saw that as, now I know why I went to France on this trip.
What I loved about Monet towards the end of his life, when he was going blind, was basically painting color.
Yeah, and he was quite abstract at the end too, and I love those late paintings.
When you working on these projects, on any given piece of this size, are you working months, weeks, years? Are you a rapid
It really is hard
painter?
to say. It's sometimes they go fast, sometimes they don't. It could be months, it could be weeks, it could be days, but that's not too often with the large ones. And I worked on these large paintings on horses and flat, and so they were like tabletops. I had long brushes, work wet into wet on unprimed cotton duck.
Do you do your own stretching?
I did my own stretching. I had assistants from time to time to help me stretch, but they never stretched it the way I wanted it to be. So I'd go back and re-stretch. So I decided, no, I'll do it myself.
Have you ever considered sculpture?
I haven't done sculpture myself, but I'm very drawn to minerals, and I collect them. And I started in 2002, actually going to the mineral shows in Tucson, and I wanted to incorporate minerals into my work in some way. I didn't know how I'd do it. So I started by buying minerals, and ultimately I produced a series of 50, I call them painting assemblages, assemblage. And they're sort of boxes, the surface of which is a painting, and then there's a niche with a mineral floating, and the mineral and the painting are somehow symbiotic. It just worked that way. So I call the series Echoes, and you've seen a couple of them. Yeah.
Is there that one piece that you've created, or maybe have yet to create, that is so intensely personal, it draws into all of these things that you couldn't part with it, or?
Well, there's one that I parted with, and it was the very last large painting that I did. I named it for my father. It's called Ben, that was his name. And the piece was completed on what would have been his 100th birthday. And you see, I don't believe in coincidences, and there are so many things like that have happened in my career where things somehow work together in a way that, you couldn't plan. It just happened. I think it's in Park City, Utah now, but I parted with it because I knew it needed to go out. And that painting went to a private collector. Another one is in the Art Museum of New Mexico. As much as I like color, the grays and darks, blacks and whites can be powerful too. I'm going back just before you came today. I was on the phone talking to a person who heads the art program at the University of New Mexico Health Sciences Center, and they're doing a retrospective of some of the pieces that they have of mine in July. We were just talking about setting that up. And so I'm going back to Santa Fe in July. And so I've always gone back to places where I've lived and sort of reconnected. And I have so many friends in so many places that it's nice to actually see them, you know, in real time.
Yeah.
versus
Skype.
Versus Facebook and whatever.
Where are you going next, other than back to Santa Fe?
Oh, you think I know? I mean, come on.
Well, you can fake it. Come on, we've got an interview.
I know, but I'm not going to. I know we do, but I'm not.
The works that I've seen recently at Archdeacon Gallery are much, much smaller.
Yes, they're small. They're sort of miniatures of the large paintings in a way. They're all about color as well. But in terms of where I'm going, where are you going? Well, you probably have your next several interviews lined up.
No, we just sort of go with the flow.
Well, that's what I do too, you know, and I think that's the best way. I had my teeth cleaned the other day, and the dental hygienist said to me, well, what are your plans for the rest of the day? And I said, I think I'm just going to let it unfold. And she said, oh, I love that. And she said, you know, I even feel like it's taking pressure off of me. So basically, there's your answer.
I think it's been really kind of an interesting evolution that you embarked on this career, and in a short space of time, you've made a mark in the art world, and you continue to make a mark in the art world.
Well,
and that's something I think.
The major thing for me has been the quality of my life experience, the life that I have lived through having this to be involved in, the people that I have met, the total experience. It's been, you know, such an enhancer of the quality of my life. And then there's the art.
That's just the icing on the cake.
Which is there.
I think it's been an interesting journey to learn about.
Yeah.
We're going to show you some of the artwork that's here. We're going to show you how to find it on the web. We're going to tell you about going to Santa Fe, and maybe you can see it firsthand.
Yeah. I show there at Zane Bennett Contemporary Art in Santa Fe.
We're going to give you website addresses. We're going to give you some info, and you can all take your own little journeys. And it's been worth it. And this has been an incredible afternoon. Thank you so much.
I've loved it. I've really loved it. Thank you.
Take care. This has been Colliding Worlds, and I hope you're walking away with something really special today. Thank you. This is Angela Valenti-Romeo. This is Colliding Worlds, and we're really going to rock your world right now. We're with Karen and Tony Baroni, and we're at their magnificent home, and we're going to hear all about them. Come with us as we take a stroll through Fantasyland. We are here with Karen and Tony, and they are a love story that just keeps continuing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for coming over.
It's a treat to be able to introduce you to so many of our sculptures and what we're doing. This happens to be not a series. Well, yeah, a series. A series of Dalmatian sculptures.
Not an edition.
Not an
edition.
The
edition is a multiple where it's the same one over. Each one is done by hand, of course, and each one is a little different, and they're always a different color. And it's a series that it's very important to us because it's touching a lot of bases for us. We've created a concept called art adoption.
I find to be very intriguing, and you can explain to everybody what that means, because that's a great way of dealing with public art.
Great. Part of what art adoption is about, and especially our hero, which is something that we've done in order to honor firefighters. And it's to go, and there's multiples of them, and each one's a different color. As he said, their ears are different, their tails are different, their paws may be different, but no matter what the color especially, differentiates them. And they are to honor firefighters, and they're to go in front of museums, fire stations, parks, schools, wherever they can find the right place in order to have enough people have their attention drawn to them.
So the program,
Yes,
go ahead.
both as an art form and as sculpture to honor in public places.
The adoption part
yes.
comes from the fact that we join up with the private sector to create work for the public sector without taking money from taxes and cities. Because right now a lot of cities are really strapped, and one of the problems we're finding is that public art is suffering, not suffering, but is not high on the agenda. This is one of many that we're doing, but this is important to us right now. We're putting a lot of effort into it.
And it shows. I think
Thank
it's
you.
just wonderful. But this is not the only thing you've done.
No.
And we're going to stroll and we're going to take a look at some of the other really amazing works that these people have put together. And then maybe they'll tell us a little bit about their love story, because I think that influences all of what you see here. We are now in front of double dipping.
Dreamsicle,
No,
Dreamsicle Creamsicle is
That's
another
adding-
work of art that we've done in the world of ice cream, and let me explain why.
I love ice cream.
It's so hot
Yeah.
in the desert. You look at this, and just looking at it, you start to cool your body temperature goes down.
And it's a contrast. It's like, what am I looking at? Where am I? Who am I? Am I really? Am I only 9 inches tall? It's kind of an Alice in Wonderland adjustment. And
Yes.
and the other adjustment is that during the summer when it's 115 degrees, you're standing next to an ice cream cone.
Just the technical aspect of putting this together is really amazing. We even have the seam on the cone, which is,
Yeah.
to me,
All things considered,
God
right?
is in the detail.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it
really
totally is. But
Really
this also requires a great deal of thought, planning, and skill. You just
Right.
can't sit there and go, oh, I'm going to make an ice cream cone.
And it takes a skill beyond us. It takes giant machinery. It takes other skilled people to assist us and to make this a reality.
It's taking our vision and making it
Right.
come to
In,
life.
in other words, with this is steel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so compared to the dogs that you're seeing
Which
in
are
the
aluminum.
Unititables,
Yeah.
are aluminum. And steel is the most recycled material in the world. Most people are not aware that steel is recycled beyond aluminum, glass, plastic combined. So steel is unbelievable, and this is a water-based paint that we're using. Now that's the integrity of the piece, but this all starts out as flat sheets of steel. In this case, 1/8-inch steel, and we form it. There's one machine that we know of in Southern California that could actually take this and dome it and make it into round. It sits on that machine for the entire day while it contours the form, but it won't make a circle. It'll make a half circle.
And I'm looking over there at the macaroni and cheese, and I'm knowing that that was not.
Easy to perform.
No,
None
no,
of them
no,
are. None of
no.
them are.
It was easy to think of.
Yeah.
How do you think of these things? Do they just sort of pop into your
Oh,
head in the
man.
middle of the night?
Yeah, actually, last night in the middle of the night, that exact thing happened too. I got up at 2 this morning, and sometimes Karen will know I'm up. Without getting out of bed, she'll say, "You're awake," and I say, "Yeah." She says, "Okay, you want to talk?" And I say, so at 2 in the morning, we're laying in bed in the dark, the kitty curled up, and we're talking, and we were conceptualizing this piece called The Big Bang Theory. And anyway, it's kind of complicated, but things do come during the night. Usually we wake up with them.
What I find really interesting beyond the art is this partnership.
Yeah.
It's my husband and I used to share an office, and at the end of the day, it was like if mommy and daddy were fighting, they brought it home.
Yeah.
You two seem to have found this evenness in your personal relationship, which translates quite well into your professional relationship.
Yeah.
And I find that remarkable. How were you able to do this?
Respect.
From the minute we met.
Yeah,
right.
from the minute we
we
met,
just
that
knew
was
we
it.
had to be together.
together.
And,
we
there
never-
was just we're always talking. We're always thinking of the next thing we're doing together. We're always questioning what we see
We
and
haven't
how we
run out of
perceived
things.
it.
We haven't run
No,
out of
no.
things, so
I don't think
I
you
don't think-
ever
no, I don't
will.
think
no,
so
it's
either.
constant.
We're standing in front of Hugs, and he's 700 pounds of steel, and he's pretty amazing.
It took us 2 years to perform.
I love looking at it. It's never over with him. This is one of the pieces that I even wonder, did we make it? It's like so complex in its simplicity, and the parts again are formed, but it's analytic geometry. You're looking at things, and we break things up into geometric form, and then assemble that geometric form, and it becomes imagery. So the paws are a half a sphere, but
Right.
they're paws. First they're steel, then they're spheres, and then they're paws. And
And then the nose. You can
yeah,
get the
and
same
nothing
sense.
here is in its original state. Everything has been transformed. Even this leg is transformed. It's got a gentle curve to it.
And the
you talk
tail.
about
You see the
assembling
tail.
things.
I love the
too.
wrinkles in the
Yeah,
tail. I think they're
right.
just so cool.
Yeah,
So
and
dark.
that's like a lab experiment that went bad, because we had to roll that tail. We roll it means make it into that shape.
Yep.
And we just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until it started to distress. And then they stopped. They said, no.
It felt so right.
Yeah.
The happy mistake.
Yeah,
Exactly,
well, some people think that the difference between a average artist and a great artist is a great artist is able to capitalize on mistakes.
I think he's wonderful. I
Good.
think he's
Thank you.
he's got life. He may be a sculpture, he may be metal, but he has a warmth to him.
Yeah, and a personality.
And very much a personality. You want to go rub his belly, you really do, I really appreciate the time you've given us.
been a pleasure.
It's been great. I really, if you walk away from this interview with nothing else, walk away just knowing that within this group right here, there is really such a sense of peace and love that it's overwhelming, and it's better than anything that anybody could ever create, because it all was from in here, and that all shows in your work.
Oh,
Thank you so very much.
Our pleasure.
Salute.